There's a man in my city who drives a 12-year-old Honda. He eats lunch at home most days. His clothes are simple, unremarkable. He's never mentioned stocks at a dinner party. He's never posted about his portfolio online. He doesn't talk about money at all, actually. Last year, I found out he has $2.3 million in investments. Nobody would ever guess. And that's exactly the point. We live in a culture that's completely backwards about wealth. The people who look the richest, the luxury cars, the designer bags, the renovated kitchens, are often the ones with the least actual money, and the people quietly building generational wealth look so ordinary that we walk right past them every single day. Today, I'm going to show you what those quiet people actually do differently. Not motivation, not mindset, specific concrete behaviors that separate people who look wealthy from people who actually are. And I want to be upfront. None of this is complicated, but simple doesn't mean easy. Once you see this clearly, though, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Let me start with something most financial content completely ignores. Wealth and the appearance of wealth are not the same thing. In fact, they're often opposites. Think about what it actually takes to look wealthy in 2026. A new car requires $800 to $1,200 in monthly payments. A renovated kitchen costs $40,000 to $80,000 in Canada. Designer clothes, business class flights, expensive restaurants, each one is a cash outflow. Each one reduces the money available to grow. The person who looks wealthy is simply the person who spends the most on looking wealthy. There's no deeper secret. They're just directing their dollars toward visibility instead of growth. And here's what makes this dangerous. When we see people living visibly well, our brain registers it as evidence of financial success. We start to feel like our own life is falling behind. We start comparing our balance sheet to their Instagram feed. And those are two completely different things. The people quietly building real wealth stopped playing the visibility game years ago, not because they're cheap, not because they don't enjoy nice things, but because they did the math and realized the visibility game has a terrible return on investment. So what do they actually do differently? 6 behaviors that show up consistently in people who build significant wealth on ordinary incomes. And I want to be clear, these aren't personality traits. They're not things you either have or don't have. They're decisions, repeatable, learnable decisions. Behavior 1, they automate before they think. Most people receive their paycheck, spend throughout the month, and save whatever's left. The problem is that whatever's left is almost always close to zero, because spending expands to fill available income. It happens automatically, without intention, just through the natural accumulation of small decisions throughout the month. Quiet, wealthy people flip this entirely. The moment their paycheck lands, a predetermined amount moves automatically to investments. They never see it. They never decide whether to save it this month or not. The decision was made once, months or years ago, and now it just happens. When saving requires an active decision every month, it competes with every other financial priority in your life. Some months the car needs repairs, some months there's a trip, and slowly the savings rate drifts downward. When saving is automatic, it never competes. It just happens. Someone who automates $800 per month at age 30 and never changes that number will have approximately $2.4 million by age 65 at historical market returns. They didn't get smarter. They didn't earn more. They just automated one decision and let time do the rest. Behavior 2, they never upgrade on emotion. When income increases, most people immediately ask, "What can I now afford?" Quiet, wealthy people ask a different question. Where does this extra money go so it works for me? When their salary goes from $75,000 to $90,000, they keep their lifestyle at $60,000 and double their savings rate overnight, without any visible change to their life. The raise didn't change how they look, but it quietly doubled their financial trajectory. Over a decade of intentional raise redirection, This behavior alone creates hundreds of thousands of dollars in additional wealth, and nobody around them even notices it's happening. Behavior 3. They think in total cost, not monthly payments. Most of us evaluate purchases using monthly payment logic. $650 a month feels manageable. $14.99 feels like nothing. But that's not how quiet, wealthy people think. That $650 per month car payment is $46,800 over 6 years, plus insurance premiums, plus interest, plus the opportunity cost of what that money would have grown into if invested instead. At 7% annual returns over 20 years, that's approximately $181,000. So the question isn't, can I afford $650 a month? The real question is this car worth $181,000 of my future wealth? When you ask that honestly, most purchases look completely different. Behavior 4. They protect their investments from themselves. Here's something nobody talks about. One of the biggest threats to a growing portfolio isn't a market crash. It's the investor. Markets go down. Headlines get scary. Your colleague tells you he moved everything to cash, and suddenly the money in your investment account starts to feel like it should be somewhere safer. Quiet, wealthy people understand this psychological vulnerability, and they build structural protection against it. They use RRSPs and TFSAs that create friction for early withdrawal. They deliberately avoid easy access to investment funds in their day-to-day banking. They don't check their portfolio during volatile periods. This isn't discipline, it's architecture. The data is clear. Investors who check their portfolios daily earn significantly lower returns than those who check quarterly, not because markets treat them differently, but because frequent checking leads to emotional reactions, and emotional reactions lead to selling at exactly the wrong time. Behavior 5. They know the difference between assets and expensive illusions. A primary residence in Canada generates costs, not income. Mortgage interest, property taxes, maintenance, while tying up hundreds of thousands of dollars that could otherwise be invested. A car loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. A renovation rarely generates returns proportional to its cost when you eventually sell. Quiet, wealthy people direct money toward real assets. Things that grow while they sleep, index funds, rental properties with positive cash flow. The math here is stark. Someone who puts $80,000 into home renovations has a nicer kitchen. Someone who puts $80,000 into a diversified index fund has approximately $309,000 20 years later. Same dollars, completely different outcomes. Behavior 6. They play a completely different game. Most financial decisions are unconsciously driven by social comparison. The car you drive, the neighborhood you live in, the vacations you take, all quietly shaped by what your reference group considers normal. But quiet, wealthy people have redefined their reference group entirely. They're not comparing themselves to their colleagues who just renovated their kitchen. They're comparing themselves to their future self, the 65-year-old version who either has options or doesn't. When your reference point is future freedom rather than your neighbor's new car, every spending decision looks completely different. The question stops being, what does this say about me today? And starts being, what does this cost me 20 years from now? Let me tell you about James, because his story illustrates all 6 of these behaviors in a single life. James is 58 years old, project manager at a mid-sized company in Ontario. He's earned between $72,000 and $95,000 for most of his career. Good money, but nothing extraordinary. His car is a 2016 Toyota Corolla with 140,000 kilometers on it. His house is a 3-bedroom, semi-detached in an unremarkable neighborhood. His clothes are clean and professional, but nobody would recognize the brands. At 29, James automated $600 per month to his RRSP. Every time he got a raise, He split the increase, half to living a little better, half directly to investments. He increased his contributions slowly over the years. Small, quiet adjustments, nothing dramatic. When markets crashed in 2020, James didn't move his money. He'd set up his investments in a separate account. He checked twice a year. He didn't see the panic in real time. He didn't react to it. He never renovated his kitchen. His colleagues joked about it for years. He smiled and changed the subject every time. At 58, James has $1.87 million in investments. His mortgage is paid off. He could retire today if he wanted to. He doesn't talk about it. His neighbors have no idea. And that's exactly the point. Quiet, wealthy people aren't doing secret, complicated things. They're doing simple, boring things, consistently, invisibly, and without audience. They automate before they think. They redirect raises instead of spending them. They think in total cost, not monthly payments. They protect their investments from their own emotions. They choose real assets over expensive illusions, and they measure success in future freedom, not present appearances. None of these behaviors require exceptional income. None require financial genius. They require something much simpler and much harder at the same time. The willingness to look ordinary while building something extraordinary. The man in my city with the 12-year-old Honda isn't lucky. He's not unusual. He's just been playing a different game quietly for a very long time. The question is whether you want to play that game too, because the rules are the same for everyone. The starting line is wherever you are right now, and the game starts the moment you decide that looking wealthy is far less interesting than actually being wealthy. If this shifted something for you, subscribe. Every week, the math behind the decisions that actually determine your financial future. No noise, just clarity.